Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hey everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. We're going to spend a couple of segments talking about the great state of, well, not state, but the great parish of Lafourche with the great parish president, Archie Chesson. You know, everybody always says the great state of Louisiana. Well, that's the great parish of Lafourche for sure. So how you been, man?
I'm good, Harry. Thanks for having us back on.
It's a tough time of year, you know. Actually, it slows down a lot in a lot of ways. People out of school, everything calms down there, but we always have something going on the golf. So I guess I was thinking it's almost like, you know, when I was in college, I always waited till the last second, right? Yep. And I knew there was an exam coming, so I had that anxiety of, I know it's out there, it's coming. And that's what this hurricane season feels like. Yep. Kind of talking, I know something's out there, so I'm a little nervous about it. You feel the anxiety as well?
Yeah, you know, Harry, it's one of those things where it's kind of like you get through Christmas, and then we get through Mardi Gras, and we're like, okay, it's May, and then it's June, and oh, look, here's our annual hurricane meeting, and then, you know, normally these June storms don't pop up like this. We've had a couple of instances.
Oh, right.
If you go back to like 2020, we had like Cristobal back in the early part of June. But we don't get things like Beryl out there floating around very often. I think this is the first time we've ever seen a Category 5 in the tropics like that. So it's a little scary, right? Knowing that we haven't hit the peak of the season yet, what's to come as these things start to roll off. You know, the last couple of years we got really lucky. And I've told people the last couple of days, you know, people seeing the heat advisories and just, you know, the heat in general. And like, look, I will take 115 degree heat
last year
and a drought for 5 months like we had last year if we don't have any hurricanes, and those steering currents keep them away. So, you know, hurricane season for us is not just a date on a calendar. It's something we do all year long, and something that Public Works, especially our emergency preparedness guys, work on all year long as we make sure drainage is working, as we work to continue to put things back together, unfortunately, still from Ida, working through some of the pump stations and some of the infrastructure issues we've had. But overall, I think we're in really good shape, right? Our two levee districts, North and South Lafourche, have made a ton of improvements since Ida back in 2021, especially in North Lafourche where we had the water incidents, I guess we'll say, where a couple of levees were overtopped. Nothing breached, right? It was just nobody expected that high of a storm surge coming that far north. So those guys and Dwayne Bourgeois and his team in North Lafourche have been really good at recapping levees, adding some height. We've bid out a couple of new pump stations in those particular areas to help deal with the water that falls inside the system, and how do we get it out as quick as we can. So overall, we're doing really well. You know, hopefully the improvements that Energy made after the storm, from a resiliency standpoint, and the deeper poles, the sonotubes, that sort of stuff, hold up. And we you know, if we do get a storm, we're not out of power for as long as we were after Ida or any storm, right? You know, anything past a few days, people get kind of hinky, right? But, you know, the water district has made some improvements in communication and how they do things. You know, with water lines and gas lines, those are tricky because you can't do anything about a tree uprooting and taking out a main gas line or water line. So for those guys, it's all about the response and the communication, how fast we can fix them. You know, we've done some things. We received quotes last week. We're going through them now on pre-positioning some different things, whether they be generators, water tankers, all the stuff that we realized we ran up against during Ida. That while the state was really good, GOSEP was a great partner, things that we think we can pull the trigger on faster and get a little bit better. Having somebody with us in the EOC that says, hey, I need a 1 megawatt generator for a shelter, go find it and get it here. And in 24 hours, it's there, right? We don't have to worry about communication breakdowns within the Web EOC program and stuff like that. So we're going to pre-position some of those things to make sure that we're in balance and we have the things we need to, because of the holes that were opened up after Ida. We're still learning lessons, right? You know, we had our big hurricane meeting with all the agencies at the end of May. Everybody from the sheriff's office to harbor police to our levee districts, our hospitals, our nursing home, our healthcare workers, just making sure that everybody was prepared. Because again, you had that 2-year lull, right? And everybody's caught up in the rebuild. Everybody's caught up in what are we putting back together? And we don't want to lose sight of what if. And as we see this track of Beryl shift, you know, that cone kind of drifts back and forth. Yeah, it did
sneak a little north.
You know, there's some models that are hinting at maybe that high shifting and that thing curving a little bit more. And and going at more of a Houston, Lake Charles direction than where it is headed now into the Brownsville, Mexico area. So we're just going to continue to watch it. It's still very early, right? We're going to get caught up in all the models. The one thing that we've been really talking about is make sure now you have that game plan, right? This is kind of the test for it. Make sure you know how to evacuate, where to evacuate to, where you're going, whether you're coming to one of our shelters, whether or not if the storm is bad enough, if we're pulling those triggers and bringing you to the mega shelter in Alexandria or Monroe. If you are going to evacuate, think about when you're leaving, how you're getting there. There's been a lot of talk the last few weeks about contraflow and whether or not that's even possible these days. And look, as you saw with Beryl, we talked about that right before we started filming. The way this thing just all of a sudden intensified, right? We went from a 1 to a 5 basically in a 36-hour span, and that's exactly what happened with Ida, and why some of those talks about contraflow are hard to do, because once it gets into the Gulf and once it rapidly intensifies, pulling some of those triggers are just it's too late, right?
72 hours, I think, at least,
So think about where you're going. Make sure you have the water, the food, the medicine, the way to charge your electronic devices, the way to communicate. But keep up with the official sources. Look, the one thing you see on social media is everybody's a weatherman when these things come around, right? There's Mike's weather page and Dave's weather page and Phil's weather page.
They all got models.
And they all got models. They all tinkering with stuff. And those things are very blunt. Depending on what you put in is what you're going to get out. And you can make that storm go anywhere you want if you program it right. So make sure you're listening to people like you guys, our official social media pages, our partners at the sheriff's office. The best thing to do is go like and follow the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. Those guys are the experts. They know what this thing is going to do.
And they've been good.
And they've been really good.
I know everybody gets on them, but they really have been pretty solid about it. Even Ida, I remember it wasn't even a storm yet, and they were saying it was where it was going.
It was.
And it was right on it.
The National Weather Service director now is a fellow named Ken Graham, who was from Slidell, started his career out as a meteorologist for the National Weather Service there. So at the end of the day, we could pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Dr. Graham, we're buddies. What is this thing doing, right?" So just think about all that. Start to get your game plan in place. Hopefully, this thing doesn't impact anybody that is around us or our state or even our friends in Texas. We don't want to see it go anywhere, but we sure as the heck don't want to see it come here. So
for sure. So we need to take a break. But one thing to keep in mind, and we can talk about that when we come back. At least most of our stuff has been upgraded infrastructure-wise, right? Even just the 6 nails and a shingle is upgraded than what it was. So should be better prepared this time than any other time. So we'll see. All right, we'll take a break. More with Archie Shessa when we return on Bayou Time.
Structural heart disease refers to a defect in the heart's valves, walls, or chambers that keeps the heart from pumping blood properly. Valve or structural heart problems may be present at birth or develop over time. Your risk increases if you have high blood pressure, plaque buildup, history of heart attack, take certain medications, or have certain heart infections. The Structural Heart Program at CIS and Terrebonne General provides innovative solutions and devices with the latest technology to bring the best possible outcomes for patients. Learn more at cardio.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. We're spending a little time with Archie Shessa as we're talking about hurricane season. We got some other stuff. I want to get to some boat launches that have happened too, which is all plays into being the Lafourche experience.
That's right.
Hey, so that's what we're talking about. Our infrastructure should be upgraded a little bit, right? It's only been 2-3 years since we almost remodel. Almost every roof has got new nails on it. Should be better prepared right now, although nobody can withstand another item.
That's right.
We should be better for the smaller ones anyway.
Yeah, and what we've seen a lot of people do kind of post Ida is a lot of people had new roofs either after Katrina or Gustav. So a lot of those roofs were 20 years old. So we saw a lot of people going back with ice and water shield. A lot of the damage we saw was as the shingles rolled off, it took the paper and then the water came in through the decking, right? So we saw a lot of people either taping up the seams in the decking, doing the complete ice and water shield. We've even had some people come in and said, they had a spray foam insulator come in and spray the cracks from the inside of the decking to keep that water from coming in. So that all goes back to a lot of the fortified stuff that we've been talking about and how to get those discounts on your homeowner's insurance. So we've seen some people take advantage of that. We're still doing a lot of work. If you go downtown Thibodaux, a lot of the government offices are still getting re-roofed. We still have a lot of work to do in South Lafourche when it comes to our Galliana complex. There's a new health unit being built down there. The slabs being poured or should have been poured this week. Our tourist center the slabs being poured there on a new tourist center next week. We just purchased a new piece of property for the library in Golden Meadow. We're rebuilding the library down there. So still a lot of infrastructure work happening. A lot of our rec facilities, if you go down to Golden Meadow in the park, brand new metal poles, brand new LED lights. It took us 2.5 years to get to that point, but we really fought with FEMA about making sure it was resilient. But hey, yeah, we could put back the wooden poles in 6 months, right? That's easy to do. We've been down that road several times. But they're just going to fall over again next time we get a hurricane, right? So why don't we go back, put some metal? It's going to, our 10% is going to be a little bit higher of a cost share. Your 90% is going to be a little bit higher of a cost share. But hopefully the next 20 years, you don't ever have to do this again. So they've been really good at working with us and getting us to that point. So we're pumped up about that. Had a great ribbon cutting this morning. The Leeville boat launch has been repaired. That was about a $1.3 million project that FEMA completely funded. The original funds came from the Wallop-Bro Act and Wildlife and Fisheries. We cut the ribbon on that thing back in 2014, I guess. So this is round 2 for us, but we had the great honor this morning of naming the boat launch after Mr. Tohan Melisaw, who was a Leeville native, great businessman, owned the first boat launch in Leeville, right? A lot of family still there, Mr. Mike, Mr. John. We had his great-granddaughter talk about him this morning at the ribbon cutting. And then the fishing pier at the boat launch was named after Mr. John Boudreaux, who was another entrepreneur and businessman from Leeville, had the hotel down there for a lot of years, the Boudreaux Motel. So his grandson, his great-grandson was there to unveil the plaque on the boat launch and the pier. So it was kind of a cool day. And Harry, I say this, we've done a lot of ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings because of all the IDA stuff. And it's given the ability for us to build back some bigger, better buildings and better facilities. But like the boat launch this morning, it's a great economic development incentive, right? The amount of people that go out of Leeville to go fishing is unbelievable, right? And that's why Leeville has really survived all these years.
Also a mental thing, for that community more than any other community has just almost been wiped out.
It has been.
And for them to have that kind of back in their community, I think it says a lot. Even if they don't live there anymore, they can go visit.
They can go
and
visit,
do those kind of things.
And we still have a couple of charter fishermen operating out of there. You have people like Nick Sheremy at Midnight Blue. They do bow fishing at night or alligator hunting during that season. So you have people doing advancements there. And we were talking about that on the drive down is you're seeing some activity, right? You're seeing new compressor stations being built. Leeville's got some buzz around it with some of the charter fishing guides and some of the great work that's happening down there. You see some things happening inside of Golden Meadow. The port is rocking and rolling. And I think depending on what happens in November, you may see that switch flip on and that dimmer get even brighter, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. And as we do things like the boat launch, as we continue to open up things like the health unit in Galliano, that because of the opioid settlement dollars is going to have a mental health component to it. We're going to have some clinicians in there that are doing drug and alcohol abuse addictions, but also just regular mental health. If there's an issue you or your family are facing, we have the Lafourche therapy program that we've stood up with Dr. Nicole Bourgeois, who's actively taking patients right now that we can see. It's kind of a stability program, right? We'll take you through 5 or 6 visits and then turn you over to a long-term clinician if you need it after that. But we've seen some great things. We work very closely with Sheriff Weber and his police social services, District Attorney Christine Russell and her victim social services department at getting those referrals as deputies, as district attorneys, ADAs come across people that say, hey, you can help from this, whether you had a mental episode and the sheriff's office was called, or whether there was a family interaction that caused some interaction with the district attorney's office or the sheriff's office, or whether or not you have a friend and you call and say, hey, Archie, look, I got this buddy who's going through something. Is there anything that can help him or her? And we can put them into these programs. And it's been a kind of a godsend because we kind of forget about that stuff. The opioid settlement dials allowed us to start the program. But I hope that because of things like the office we open in Lockport, the new space coming in Galliano, we have the ability to expand it and really touch that mental health component that we often forget about in our community.
Sure. No. And look, that's one of those things. Drug abuse leads into a lot of mental illness. And a lot of people didn't think that's real mental illness, but it's happening. So you can't just walk away from it and say you don't deserve treatment. So it's a great way to have it. I know St. Anne's had a ward there, but besides that, there's not a whole lot of wards for that type of treatment. So that's a great.
And it's even become sort of post addiction, right? Once you get through that initial, okay, I'm not using anymore. There are still some mental health aspects, and then the family interactions that happen because of that, and how we can tap into that. So it's a great program. I'm really proud that Dr. Bourgeois came aboard and really cranked it up.
And where's that located?
So we have an office in Lockport that we have now, and then once we get the Galliana Health Unit stood up in the next probably 8-10 months, we're going to have a specific spot in there to touch the South Lafourche community.
I mean, look, talk about infrastructure. Our Lady of the Sea took a big hit down there. So to have that closer is good too. So yeah, no, real important and big parts of our community that a lot of times people don't like to talk about.
That's right.
But it's a huge part. So
We do.
yeah, well, buckle up, man. So
Be a busy summer, Harry.
hopefully not. Hopefully we just watch them go by.
No kidding.
But thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Harry.
All right, we'll be right back with more Bayou Time right after this.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.